attack the planet.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to another midweek TCM stream. Hope you're all doing well. Let's see. Let me jump into the chat so far. We have JZY is first here for today, or JZ, if that's how you pronounce it. I made this joke before, but in Canada, we pronounce it JZ. Sir Kit, what's up? Happy to have you early this time. Welcome, welcome. John Rogers, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you happen to may be. Seeing some familiar faces. Yeah, you're here. You're here early for the first time. Welcome. Nice to have you. Before we kick off the box for today, who will be streaming today? I will be streaming today. I go by Andrew or Malware Cube. Been on a few streams in the past recent bit. Every once in a while, you'll see me on here doing some blue team stuff at TCM. So yeah, we'll get into this in a moment. We'll do some Q&A first as usual, but we will jump into Blue Team Labs Online box in a moment, doing some PowerShell deobfuscation. Should be fun. Everyone got new camera angles. I mean, I've had this for a little bit. I used to have it off to the side, but then I put the curtains up and everything. I'm good, thank you. How are you doing as well? Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Love from South Africa. Nice to see. Digital Andrew here late. Not really. A couple minutes late, I guess. Fashionably late. But we haven't started anything yet, so it's all good. Nice B-side Ottawa shirt. Yeah, I've got like 4 or 5 of these maybe over the years. And they changed the design a little bit this year. They threw the logo big up in center in the middle. But yeah, I've got quite a few of those. Zen Carter, hello. Welcome. Again, some familiar faces here. We have some first timers as well. Welcome, everybody. What is the purpose of today's stream? So, like I mentioned, we're going to do, some Q&A or some AMA at the beginning as everyone settles in and sort of joins the stream, and then we'll jump into doing some PowerShell deobfuscation. We're going to do a Blue Team Labs online machine or a box. I don't know if you'd call it a box. I think we're just going to be handed some evidence to or some data to sort of analyze or investigate, right? Looks like he was a member of Bring Me the Horizon or Dance. I don't know what that's in reference to, but hey, man, those are some good bands. Some classic late 2000s, that 2007 Mallcore era. Heck yeah, I'll take it. I'm at a park right now. Can't follow along today, but I'm doing some PSA course right now, so I'll definitely watch. Nice, awesome, good to hear. Yeah, we're gonna do some blue team stuff today, so that'll be cool. One thing I'll mention as we sort of people are sort of strolling in here is just let me get everything set up here. I saw today that if this will work, there we go. I saw that. Whoops. Come on, there we go. So I saw today that we're actually retiring the privilege escalation courses, right? So the Windows privilege escalation and the Linux one as well. And so we have a nice bundle here and a nice little, if you want to buy them separately as well. So we're sort of retiring these courses. And so we're sort of giving away that lifetime access for them. And so I'll share, the link should be going around in chat if you want to take a look. But I will say, sort of anecdotally, these two courses that Heath put together are probably the reason why I passed the OSCP back when I did. So I actually use these pretty heavily, especially the Windows one. You can see it's like 7 hours long of just pure sort of all those different Windows privilege escalation tactics. And then Linux as well. And both of these, I'll say, came in really handy during that exam. So again, anecdotally, no bias intended. I really enjoyed these courses. And it also helped me kind of on the blue side as well. Like I mentioned before in one of these streams, that really understanding how to exploit some of these Privesc techniques really made it a lot easier to sort of detect and maybe analyze and baseline that kind of thing from a defensive standpoint as well. And so, again, the link should be going around in chat if you do want to sort of get your hands on this sale here as we sort of sunset these courses. Eventually, they're going to sort of be integrated into the full PNPT course or the practical ethical hacking course, just so we don't have, a bunch of different courses that you need to go through. We're just going to sort of bundle it up into one. And so if you do want to get that lifetime access to these courses, definitely would recommend hopping on that limited time sale here. But with that, I'll hop back over, see if we have any questions, and then again, in a few moments we'll hop into that lab there. All right, I'm just scrolling back up. Big team to TMC. I learned a lot from you. I think, yeah, TCM. That's nice to hear. We need Avril Lavigne on stream. Yeah, heck yeah, that'd be cool. Get Taylor Swift as well. Get Swift on security. What's your opinion on red versus blue team salary? That's an interesting question. I mean, really, it's extremely dependent on, of course, region and location, right? And mostly in my track, I've mostly just been blue team side, so I can't really speak to anecdotally in both cases. But I know quite a few people in the industry, and really, once you get to more specialized roles, the salary really opens up, and it can really kind of vary wildly. And so it's hard to just pinpoint, whether one path or another is going to lead to, higher salary. I've just more so focused my path on what I enjoy. And eventually, again, as you specialize more, you gain more skills, become more of a sort of subject matter expert, the salary comes. And, within any role within cybersecurity, obviously the salaries are kind of up there. They can be at those later stages, right? And so anything really in tech these days. And again, depending on what companies you work with, right? I use those to pass OCP this year as well. Yeah, the Windows Privesc, like I was saying, really good course. And I can say that without bias because that's Heath's course, right? So I took that long before I was at TCM. And again, really benefit from it. Like straight up, just without going into too much details, like there's some things covered in there that really sort of helped me out. Is there another place to watch this live rather than LinkedIn? Yeah, so we're streaming on YouTube, Twitch, and then LinkedIn, I think Twitter as well, and maybe Facebook. So, all over the place. If you want to hop over, right, it's going to be the same stream. Is there a timeline when the Privesc courses might get replaced? I'm not entirely sure. I'm not sure if it says on the announcement there. But what we're planning on doing is sort of integrating all of that, all of those I guess, modules and knowledge into the into a single course, just so you don't have to go out and go through different courses to sort of prepare for the PNPT, for example. And also, I think in some of those courses, like it wants you to like go over to Hack the Box in some cases, or try Hack Me. There's some custom rooms built up there to sort of showcase some of the efforts. And so again, we're really trying to sort of internalize some of those labs as well, just for legacy's sake, just so it's all within the TCM domain as well. So I'm not exactly sure, but it'll be sort of a smooth transition, is what I can say. When and why did you decide blue team instead of red team? Didn't really decide. I mean, it chose me. No, not really. But I mean, like with many people, I started out on the blue side just because, that's where sort of the more opportunity is, especially as you're newer into the industry. And so I mostly came from like a system administration and IT, even all the way back doing help desk. And then again, moved into sort of system administration, network admin. And so I sort of had that foundation, which led nicely into more of a blue team kind of engineering analyst type role. And so I wore a few hats over the years, but really that's just sort of where I ended up. That's where sort of the jobs were at the time, and what I ended up enjoying doing, and then really started to enjoy, some of those specific avenues under the blue team umbrella. But I was still kind of iffy, right? I was, like I said, I did the OSCP, so I was really thinking about going down maybe the penetration testing route. I have a lot of friends that sort of did go down that route, and so I'm sure I would be able to sort of weasel my way into there if need be. But again, sort of the opportunities just sort of lended itself more of a blue team sense, and I really started enjoying things like forensics and threat hunting and incident response, and so that's sort of where I ended up. Used to be a scene kid myself back in the day. Same here, man. I wish I could pull up a photo. That'd be really embarrassing. But yeah, no, I had everything going on back then. What are we doing today? Can you explain? Yep, we're gonna hop over pretty shortly and jump into a lab where we're going to do some PowerShell, encoded PowerShell deobfuscation. So we're most likely going to be handed, I think, a PowerShell script that's highly obfuscated. And then we're going to sort of dig through it and really deep dive and sort of try to pull back the layers to figure out what's actually going on. And that's going to be a Blue Team Labs box as well. Your passion will take care of you long term. Yep, that's a good point. Like I said, as long as you're doing what you enjoy, that's where you're really going to succeed, right? You could chase the money all day, right, and go down whatever path is going to be the most fruitful in that regard. But if you don't enjoy doing it, you're not going to last very long, right? You're just inevitably going to burn out. So that's always been my kind of take on it, right? If I'm not enjoying something, maybe I'll pivot over to something else, just because there's no point. Our lives are finite. Will this be available to replay later? Yep, it will. So if you have to hop off, the video will be up on YouTube, so you can replay it. Currently doing PJBT as a digital forensics incident response focused role really opens up and gives much more depth in investigations. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying before. Like, any of that red team experience or penetration testing experience, even things you get in the PJBT or PNPT or OSCP, right? Any of these kind of routes that you can go. I always say it's nice to have sort of a look into both sides of the coin, really to for threat hunting purposes, or again, for forensic purposes, really understanding how attackers are generating some of these artifacts is going to be really useful when it comes to hunting for them, right? Or, going through an investigation and sort of pinpointing and working your way backwards through forensics to discover, what really took place on an endpoint. This is a good question here. How do you know if you enjoy it without experience? I feel like most people get trapped into things. Yeah, it's a good point. Fortunately, we have like a lot of resources these days. So things like TryHackMe, which really you can go down a bunch of different paths on things like Try Hack Me or Hack the Box, for example, and really in sort of bite-sized ways, start immediately working with various things, whether it be like evidence sources for forensics or penetration testing, and so that's why I really like some of these vendors here, right? Like again, Try Hack Me or Blue Team Labs Online, Let's Defend, Hack the Box, because they can really just get you started right away. You can read through a module, and now you're placed into a lab that's already built up for you, right? And so you don't need to go through the process of maybe installing things and maybe losing interest. And so you're sort of just dopamine-wise, you're immediately placed into a scenario, and you can start to work with tools or work with whatever you need to do. And as you sort of do more of that, you can sort of see, maybe I like this kind of thing. Maybe I like investigating Windows endpoints, or maybe I like, doing web app penetration testing, right? And so that's kind of my outlook on it. Will there be another SOC course in TCM soon? Yep, there will be the SOC 201, which is going to be coming out soon, I'll say, shortly. It's still being worked on. It's in active development. We had some internal QA last week while I was doing some live training, so I have to get back into the groove of things and get back working on some of the other modules in the course. So it's coming together. It's going to be a really big course. A lot of information trying to jam pack into SOC 201. And so I'm excited for it. It's going to be, again, I've said it before, it's going to be a super high focus on incident response and threat hunting and forensics, and how those three kind of come together in sort of some of those more advanced SOC roles, right? The level 2s or level 3s, or even specialized incident responders or threat hunters or forensic analysts. And so it's really going to encompass a lot of what we did in SOC 101. But sort of build upon it and take a sort of giant leap into how we can sort of do more of these things at scale, how we can do more advanced forensics, whether it be memory forensics or file system forensics, and really hunt things as it sort of relates to maybe the cyber kill chain or the MITRE ATT&CK framework. What do you think the actual security of AI will look like in the future? How does AI security look like? Yeah, that's a tough question. Like anything around AI is just sort of hit or miss these days in terms of projections or opinions on it. Again, I always just sort of default back to, I think AI is going to be a nice tool for us, but again, it's never going to completely do jobs for us, right? It might take away certain responsibilities or aspects and sort of abstract that, just like we've seen with many other tools over the years, right? Sort of abstracting things from maybe a lower level and maybe surfacing up to an analyst and maybe like a single pane of glass kind of thing. And so I think, a similar kind of methodology will probably start to be applied with AI as well. I don't think it's going to take over jobs unless really at that entry level where you're not really doing much in terms of triage. But again, these sort of roles are just going to pivot, and now we're going to sort of be on the other side of maybe some of that initial AI work, or maybe just using AI more effectively to maybe cut down on things like alert fatigue, for example. I can't decide which way I should take, red or blue. Yeah, I mean, that's a question of the day. Again, like I was saying earlier, I would just try to get some basic experience maybe in both sides. So again, Try Hack Me has a blue team path and also a red team path, right? So you can really start to work with some of those, foundational kind of skills and the initial tools, right? So you can do some very basic capture the flags for sort of that penetration testing side. I can't recommend specific boxes. I don't really know the names of them anymore. I can't really remember. But again, that sort of introduction to penetration testing, I think there's a path like that on Try Hack Me. Or again, on Hack the Box, you can do some of the, you just go through some of the walkthroughs, right? Or maybe on the blue team side, do some of the Sherlocks. And again, if you need to go through a walkthrough to sort of learn more, it's always a valid option, right? You're just sort of trying to test the waters and see if you enjoy doing one thing or another. All right. We have some questions pinned, so I'll return to those as we can throughout the lab and at the end as well. And so feel free if anything else comes up. Britt, our moderator, is going to pin them so we can return to them later. But I'm also going to hop over to the lab now so we can get some practical work done here and do this sort of box that we're going to do today. Alrighty. All right, just let me get set up here. And so, yeah, so I've been doing a few of these Blue Team Labs online boxes on some streams before. I really like them because they're pretty simple. And by simple, I mean in terms of these sort of artifacts that you have to work with, or sort of these scenarios itself, right? And so, we're often just handed in some kind of file to work on or some sort of piece of evidence, right? And so I kind of like doing that kind of thing because it allows us to sort of go through the investigations at our own pace, or however we want, and then we can sort of answer the questions, whatever they want to ask us pertaining to the challenge, right? And so if I just filter on retired here and look for the free ones, I don't think there are any hard ones. And I don't really want to stick to easy ones. And so I've just been doing the medium ones. I think this is the last one that I have to do here in that sort of category. And so I'm going to need to start hunting for some more good challenges for these streams. But in this case, it looks like we have malicious PowerShell analysis as our scenario here. And I thought that sounded quite interesting. We could do some deobfuscation perhaps. And so for the scenario here, again, recently the networks of a large company named Gotham Legend were compromised after an employee opened a phishing email containing malware. The damage caused was critical and resulted in business-wide disruption. And so this company here has sort of had to reach out to a third-party incident response team to assist with the investigation, and we're a member of that IR team, and all we've been given is an encoded PowerShell script. And so the goal here is, can we decode it and identify what malware is responsible for this attack? Right, so we're potentially doing some attribution here, right? So, maybe we have a hunch that some malicious PowerShell scripts were run. We've sort of been handed maybe the script or the maybe command line output that was run, and the goal is, can we maybe do some forensics here, maybe sort of deobfuscate this to work our way backwards and figure out what was run, right? And in doing that, we might be able to work our way forwards, right? So if we can identify some of the, indicators or indicators of attack or indicators of compromise within this script, right? So what actual actions or behaviors the script doing, we might be able to identify some other indicators that we can use, maybe from a threat hunting perspective, or maybe just use to help guide our investigation, right? If we identify, a URL to a command and control server in a PowerShell script, well, we can then go hunting for that URL, right, across the environment to see, did any systems reach out to it, and if they did, what happened, right? Did they receive any commands, or did they download files or executables? And so that's how we can sort of use this as a pivot point, and that's why this kind of thing can be a little bit useful in some cases. So with that, let's start everything out here. And so they're going to give us a PowerShell file. So we can just, download the file here if we want, or what I did was just copy the link and then just wget it to download onto my desktop here. And it comes as the zip file, which I just unzipped with the password of BTLO that they give us here. And when we open that, I think we should have, so we have a PS script, and then we have this text file. I think this is just like their license information, so we can forget about that. But we have ps_script.txt. And so that's what we're going to use to sort of work through and try to understand what was run by, in this case, the attacker. So in a terminal, again, I can see ps_script.txt. I guess we can just open it up, right? So of course, I could cat it out if I wanted to, but there we go. That's a nice briefer of what we're up against here. But what I'd rather do is maybe open it up in Sublime Text or some kind of text editor, which is going to allow us to, much easier manipulate this file. Because as we sort of decode it, I kind of want to go line by line and maybe figure out what's being run. And then we can maybe return and answer some of these questions, right? So it looks like we have some specific questions around maybe some of the lines in the script or what they were doing. So, so I'm just going to run subl here to open up Sublime Text, run it against ps_script.txt, and that should open up in a new tab here. All right, so can anyone tell me what this script is doing? Does this make sense to anybody here? right? This is just a mess. But fortunately, you'll probably recognize at least our first step is probably pretty obvious here. But what I'm seeing is, we have PowerShell here, so we're sort of invoking the PowerShell interpreter, right? It looks like we have some weird, if I zoom in here, we have some weird like camel casing kind of in effect, right? So we have these L's as capitals, the O here, and this is completely valid in PowerShell, right? It is kind of case insensitive, right? And so often, well, maybe not often, but as a technique, you'll often see certain lines in a script, or maybe just invocations of PowerShell, for example, as sort of camel case like this to maybe get around some very basic static detections, right? If we just have a detection looking for PowerShell, for example, and it's not case sensitive, right? So it can kind of maybe work to get around some of that stuff. That's probably why we're seeing it as sort of a weird casing here. Use Vim. I think I'll just end the stream if I had to use Vim, if I didn't have Sublime Text here. Now, we can see an interesting thing here as well. So we have the window style, I believe, argument. So we just have, there's different aliases in PowerShell. So we can see that it's sort of opening up the W argument here for that sort of window style, and it's setting it to hidden. And so when the script runs, it's not going to open up that nice, easy to identify blue, PowerShell window or command kind of prompt for us when it executes, right? So again, sometimes this is used legitimately, right? If you're doing some kind of installer, right, and you don't want to sort of throw up a big terminal window in front of the user where they freak out, right, while it's doing what it needs to do. But we often see it with a lot of malicious scripts as well. So they run without the user kind of knowing, right? They kind of run in the background and don't open up a window. And importantly here, we can see the encode alias, or this argument here. Presumably letting us know that, hey, anything following this is going to be sort of encoded. And in this case, it looks to be base 64 encoded just from, visual inspection, right? And just, seeing a lot of base 64 over the years, it kind of looks like we have a lot of these standard base 64 characters, right? So, and if you go to the bottom, if we see things like the equal sign, right? So different padding characters, that could be another giveaway. But again, just from initial look, this appears to be base 64. But I'll show some other ways that we could sort of identify this if we needed to. And so what I'll do is just copy this big long string here, right? So I just select this, highlight everything, and I'm just going to copy this long string. And then I might want to head over to something like Cyberchef, right? If you haven't worked with Cyberchef before, it's like the Swiss Army knife for any kind of data manipulation tasks that you might want to do. So it can do a ton of things, right? It can decode. It even has a magic function that I'm going to see if it'll work in this case. So I'm going to paste in that long string into the input here. And then I'm going to search for magic. And this is going to try to detect what kind of encoding we're up against. If I do that, it looks like, yeah, so it is kind of able to detect base 64 here. And so we can see some things like the entropy values. And so again, it's going to do what it can here to sort of determine that for us. And so if we didn't immediately recognize it, we might be able to use the sort of magic recipe there to figure that out. But again, assuming it's base 64, we should be able to just decode that from base 64. Right? So if we find the from base 64, this is going to allow us to decode that encoded sort of string there, right? If I do that, it's going to look a little bit ugly here, right? Because this is kind of a caveat kind of thing with PowerShell base 64 encoding, as it's kind of encoded in a different kind of character set, I guess you could say. And so we see a lot of null characters in between each of these sort of valid characters. We can kind of make out that it might be doing something, but these null characters are really getting in the way. And so there's a couple of different ways. Again, we could do this. We could just take out null characters, for example. But we could also, I think, just decode the text. And the way that PowerShell is encoded, I think we need to change it to one of these. I think it's this one. Yeah, there we go. And so that's really going to sort of clean it up for us and really make it easier to sort of see, right? Because if I just, pause that again, just the way that PowerShell is encoding base 64 there, we need to also decode the sort of character set here to make it more legible. What software are you using? This is just CyberChef, which you can find online if you just Google for CyberChef. You can also run it locally if you want. There should be a GitHub link somewhere, or the download here. But again, I just run it online. It's very easy. What system are you working on? Yeah, this is just a custom Ubuntu desktop kind of package here. But really, any kind of you do this on Windows if you want. I don't think we're going to do anything super specific to Unix-based systems, but it can come in handy. For example, what I could do is also take that base 64 and head back into, again, my Unix system here. And if in the terminal, what I can do is just echo out that long string. Right? So that's just going to print it to the console. But what I can do is run that same thing again and just pipe it over to base 64 with the decode argument. And that's going to sort of do the same thing here. It's actually able to sort of decode that for us without all of those ugly null characters as well. And so that's another way that we could do that if we wanted to. But I'll also head back to CyberChef here, because what we can do now is also make this look a little bit better, or at least try to. And so what I can do is search for Beautify. I don't think there's a PowerShell one, but we can do the sort of generic code Beautify, which is going to hopefully make this look a little bit more legible for us. There we go. And so it's kind of getting some of those tabs in place, right? So for this sort of loop here. And so it's just a way for us to make it a little bit more legible. But you can see the output is still pretty messy here. And I'll just move myself as well. Whoops. I guess I can't. But I'll paste this whole thing over back in Sublime Text in a moment. The other thing we could do if we don't beautify it, actually no, let's do that. It'll make it a lot easier. So I'm going to grab that output here. It should be sufficiently cleaned up now. Calling PowerShell beautiful is hilarious. Yeah, I didn't write the term, but at least the syntax or the yeah, I guess the syntax is a little bit easier, a little bit prettier. So if I paste in that output now, again, this is still a mess for us, but at least we're getting some actual PowerShell now, right? It's not just an encoded blob. And so it's a little bit decoded now. We're still seeing a lot of that camel casing, which is kind of annoying just from a visual perspective, but I think we can work with that. The other thing I might want to do is maybe start to break up some of these lines, right? Because again, I kind of want to go through this line by line. So what I could do, if I just go under find and replace, yeah, there we go. So I can just look for the colons here, and then try to turn on regular expressions. So I can do something like, I want a new line character after sort of each one. And I can just add in the colon just so I don't replace it. There we go. And so that's a quick way for us to sort of split up some of these lines in an easier way. And now I guess we can start tackling this. And I know there are tools out there. If you just search for PowerShell Deobfuscator, there's some handy tools on GitHub I think you can use to sort of automate some of this process, some of the manual effort. But I want to try to do things manually first. Even want to try asking ChatGPT maybe on some of these lines here to help us out. See if it can do this kind of thing. I'm sure it can. But again, I'm just going to start trying to go through this line by line here. And sort of see what we're up against. And again, I'm not a PowerShell expert, but I can sort of read through code in some cases and try to figure out what it's doing. And so in this case, it looks like it's setting. This is just sort of an alias to set a variable. And so it looks like we might have, if we were to sort of decode this, we could have something like MKU as sort of the set variable name here as MKU. And it looks like it might be setting it to some of these strings here, right? And so this is a common kind of thing that you'll see in highly obfuscated scripts where it's like breaking up certain strings or certain letters into its own kind of object here or array kind of thing. And then in this case, it's telling which sort of instance of that array to use sort of in conjunction to build up a full string. right? And so it's very interesting and kind of weird what it's doing here, right? So it's like the 0 position, the 1 position, 2, 4, and 3, right? So if we look at what it's doing, it's like 0, 1, 2, and then 4, and then 3, right? And so if we take this and sort of, kind of run through that ourselves, again, it might be something like setting this MKU variable to be something like, system.io.directory, right? And so this is what it could be, aiming to do. And this is, I think, the sort of .NET object for the system directory. What I can do is actually just look this up too, if I wanted to. Whoops, throw that in quotes. Yeah, and so it's calling that sort of directory class here to sort of instantiate it, I guess, to do something, right? So again, we'll go through it line by line to try to make more sense of this kind of thing. And so again, this isn't a perfect kind of translation here, but I'm just really trying to pick out some of the main sections or indicators. Now this line here, again, it's kind of doing a similar thing. It's kind of using another kind of trick to set a variable. In this case, it looks to be the MBU variable. So again, if we wanted to try to make this easier to read, it's just setting a variable called MBU, I think. And then again, it's doing that same kind of trick to sort of create a string using these different array values, right? And so again, this could be something maybe we throw into ChatGPT and say, hey, what does this sort of translate to, right? But it looks like, maybe something like system, and again, I really don't want to go through one by one, but it looks like system, get service point, right? So sometimes you can just sort of read through it and sort of pick that out. It's kind of like a Wordle kind of thing, right? Like the New York Times puzzles. So it looks like system, get service point, and then I think manager. Yeah, so 271. Yeah, manager. Which again is another one of those sort of .NET classes, right? So I think it's system. Oh, and then .NET service point, and then manager. And again, the casing here doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to figure out what we're up against here. And so again, I'm sure if I search this up as well, we'll be able to find out that other class that it might be calling. Yeah, so service point manager manages the collection of service point objects. The following code creates a service point object for connections to the URI contoso.com. Right? And so this could be a way maybe that the script is going to eventually call out to a URL, right? So it's passing in sort of that URI or that URL that it defined to sort of, I guess, instantiate maybe that request there. So again, working our way down here. This one is pretty straightforward, right? So it's setting sort of the action preference here to silently continue. So again, if it's running into any errors, it's not going to stop or sort of display those. The script is just going to keep running, right? And so again, you just do a quick sort of silently continue. I think another way we could do this, and this might come into play in a moment as well, with some of these other ones that I can see, is like, what if we wanted to sort of arm the script against itself and have it tell us what these lines are doing, right? And we can do that in PowerShell because if you think about it, again, we can have as much obfuscation as we want. When the script actually runs, it needs to sort of build what it needs to do, right? It needs to sort of naturally deobfuscate itself so the script can run. Right? And so if we're like concatenating different strings together to build up maybe a value or a variable name, eventually when that runs, it's going to need to do that kind of thing, right? So kind of like, detonating whatever we need to do here. And in this case, it's just setting it to a variable name. And so that's not too concerning, right? And I can sort of visually tell that this isn't too malicious on its own, this line at least. And so what we could do, if I had access to a Windows VM, in this case, I'll just run it. I'll run it on my host. Because again, it's just setting a variable name. This is not bad at all. And so if I just open up a PowerShell prompt, again, on my host machine here, but again, typically you want to do this in a sandbox environment. I'm just going to set this exact line to whatever it's doing, right? So if I hit enter, it's not going to run anything because all we did was just set this variable name. And now if I call this variable name, it's going to tell me what the value is, right? And so now we can see silently continue, right? It sort of built that up for us and stored it in that variable. And so really, I kind of like this technique. We're just like using the script against itself to tell us what it's doing, right? And so that's another way that we could sort of identify this kind of thing. Same kind of thing for here too, right? So it's another instance where, let me just clean that up, where we could do the same thing, right? So it's setting this very weird variable name, and it's setting it to equal what appears to be another variable name, and then it's getting an actual character Unicode value, or the 64 here, and then again another random name. And so this is another thing we can do in PowerShell, is sort of display characters using this kind of format. And if we were to look up the ASCII code for that 64th character, we should figure out what character it's actually referring to. And so again, hop back over to good old Google here, and then I'll just do ASCII code 64 maybe. And it appears to be the @ symbol, right? So this looks like a good site. So that appears to refer to, again, the @ symbol there. And again, what I could do in PowerShell, if I hop back over, bring this back. Again, I can literally just type, character and then 64, and it's returning, again, that @ symbol for us. And so what we could do is maybe look for any other instances of this variable. It doesn't appear that there is any. So these might just be kind of, I can't find any other instances. These might just be like things to throw us off, right? Because really all this is coming down to is it's just setting that @ character there for this character. And so maybe it'll come into play later. I'm not sure. But for now, we don't know the value of these yet. Now, same kind of thing here, right? I can just grab this, throw it into PowerShell. And again, I know it's not executing anything. It's just setting a variable name. So there's no issue here, right? If I were to just call that now, it looks like it's just setting to n_0p, right? So who knows what this means yet, right? We're just sort of going line by line at this point. So j16j is equal to that weird string there. If the Linux has PowerShell core installed, you can run the script there as well. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm just doing it on my host just for ease of use, but that's a good point. Could just completely sandbox this in our Linux environment as well. All right, so now we have what appears to be, all right, so it's calling this MKU variable again, which we sort of identified was using that system.io directory, right? And so let me just grab this for reference. Setting the value, it appears to be creating a directory, and it's passing in the home, the sort of home location, right? So again, in PowerShell, if I were to just cat out the home location, in my case, I'm just running as the Elliot user, right? So it's C users Elliot, and so it's building up that directory. And it looks like it's using some weird strings here. Again, more concatenation. And then it's using, again, this 92 character here in ASCII. And so we could figure out what that is as well. And so if I just do a search, or I can just edit the URL here for 92. So that's going to be a slash, right? So that kind of makes sense. If we're building up a directory, we might want this backslash here once in a while to sort of split up different components. And so I'm curious, I want to try using ChatGPT for this to see if it can actually tell us what this is doing, right? I'm sure we could even just throw this into PowerShell itself and figure out what kind of directory it's making. But let's see if the AI overlords can help us out here. So I'll just open up ChatGPT. There we go. Decode this PowerShell string and give me the result. I want to see if this works. Yeah, so again, it's accessing that MKU variable, blah, blah, blah. Really? Really? What if I give it the MKU? See if that'll work. Come on now. Come on, ChatGPT, don't fail me now. Okay, so yeah, it's pointing to the user's home directory. It's building up these weird strings. Okay, there we go. So it's kind of trying to do it. It's still not really making sense of these yet, which is unfortunate. And so I think it's kind of muddying up the results there. But we can work with this, right? So that was kind of useless, unfortunately. But what we can do, I'll paste in what it gave us. Because again, C user's username. And so it's pointing out that home directory, of course, to build up this sort of string here. I think we can honestly just take these out. Right, so it's this weird DB_BH string, and then 30. And I think we can take this out again and replace that again with the backslash, because I think that's what it failed to kind of do there. And then we have YF5BE5G, and then another backslash. And so it was close, right? I think it just didn't know what to do with this character here for whatever reason. Maybe it couldn't look that up. I don't know. But it looks like we have now a directory, right? So username would be whatever is the user's home directory that's running the script. And then it's going to point to this very weird string, or this set of directory and subdirectory, right? And I think that's interesting because, again, why would a malware author use such a weird random location here, right? And, to sort of get around detections, perhaps. But again, the interesting thing I find here is that when looking at certain samples or certain scripts, is that malware authors typically need to make a decision, right? Do they want their script to maybe blend in and maybe use a directory that might look more legitimate, or use an actual directory, or do they want to sort of make it harder to write signatures for? Right. And so in this case, if it's using random strings like this, it's going to make it a lot harder to write signatures to detect this exact location, right? Because it could change every time. It could just be using random values. And so again, it's always a give and take, right? The more, the harder you make it to write a signature for something, the easier it might be to spot visually, right? Because we can see this sort of entropy here. It's a very random string, right? This if we saw this, if we saw a file executing from this location, that would be an immediate indicator that something is not right. Right? So I think that's an interesting kind of paradox there, right? Between, do you want something to be easily identifiable, or do you want it to sort of blend in? All right. So again, another string here that should be pretty easy to sort of use against itself in this case. So let me copy that and then paste it in, and then just tell me the value of C39Y. There we go. So very, again, random. This could just be an attempt to throw us off, right? Who knows? But just for verbosity's sake, I'll go through it as well. Now in this case, it's using, again, that MBU variable that we might have come across earlier. Again, so this system.net.servicePointManager, which appeared to be some kind of object that we can use to maybe make a connection to a URI or a URL on the internet. Right? And so it looks like it's sort of integrating that variable again, and it's setting the security protocol value. And so again, interesting thing you'll see all the time is PowerShell doesn't care if you have sort of these backticks anywhere, basically. It just doesn't read them, doesn't care in this case. Security protocol, and it's setting it to what appears to be TLS 12. TLS and then 12. There's no 1.2. Okay. That's interesting as well, right? So again, we could take this and maybe try to verify that. I don't know if this will work. Let's try test. Yeah, there we go. So TLS 12, there's no hidden dot anywhere. And so let's see if we can figure that out, what it's doing here. And so again, it was that, excuse me, what was it? The system.net.servicePointManager, and then it's setting this kind of variable or this value under that for security protocol. And so if I head back, I have so many tabs open. Yeah, so this is what we were on. If I search for TLS, we don't recommend you use the Service Point Manager class. 12? No. TLS 12. Whoops. There we go. TLS 1.2. So yeah, so I assume that's what it was referring to. But I guess the way you do that is with TLS 12. Okay. And so there you go. Yeah, so I'll just grab that because I think that was one of the questions. Is it's asking what security protocol is used, and so I'm assuming TLS 12. That's going to refer to TLS 1.2. So that might be handy later. Looks like again we have some more strings that we can decode very easily just by running it against itself. So I paste those in, and then I can call F35I. Right, so we're getting some more random values. Could be useful, could be not. I guess we'll find out. There we go. So yeah, I'm just going to grab these so I have them as reference. Yeah, there we go. Clean that up. Nice. Okay. What I can also do, again, is figure out if these are just to mess with us, right? To throw us off. In this case, it doesn't appear that there's any other instances of this variable. In this case, it's calling it again in this line, so this could be useful, this A69S. This one, nothing, right? And so this one in particular appears to be kind of useful here. So I'll drop that in under there. And so for this, again, it's just setting this weird variable name. And so we could use this once again in PowerShell to just sort of decode it. It appears to be, again, referencing the home directory, might be creating another random location. It's replacing U plus O with the backslash, which we identified. And then it's pasting in that name and then .dll. Okay, so we almost didn't even need to do that. If we just go through it, it looks like, again, it's referencing maybe that same location. Yeah, DBH30. Yeah. Where was that? And then it's replacing that OH. Yeah, so we can ignore that. So it looks to be the same here so far. And then it's pasting in this variable, which is this string, and then .dll. Right, so this appears to be the name, the file name that it's saving from whatever, I guess, web connection it's trying to make. Right, so if it's trying to download a file, this is where it's going to save it, and this is the file name it's going to save it as. Let's try to double check our work here. And again, PowerShell, just run that, and then tell me what is the value of that variable. Yeah, there you go. So same thing, right? It's just using whatever user directory. Yeah, so we had that spot on. Cool. And then again, another instance where, again, we just quickly do this. K47V, another random string. Who knows what this is for? Can see if it's being used anywhere else. Doesn't appear to be, so we can almost just ignore this unless we can figure out that it's somehow being referenced later on. But so far, I haven't seen any reference to it. We have a very long line here, which I can almost make out. Again, it's doing that weird concatenation thing, but these, very clearly appear to be some kind of URL or multiple URLs. Okay, so it's sort of building that out, and I don't want to go through and manually figure this out and manually add these together. So what I might try is just grabbing this. And maybe if we ask ChatGPT nicely, it might be able to figure that out for us. But again, PowerShell has been pretty useful for us. And again, we're just setting a variable here. It's not executing anything, right? So I'm not too concerned. It looks like we have some other variables here that I don't think I've seen before. So that might actually not work. Maybe it did. Now, again, if I ask what the value is here, there we go. So yeah, so we do have some URLs. And so this line just appears to be, setting up maybe an array of different URLs. So if I paste that in, again, we can see, maybe try to break up the different URLs here. And it appears to be splitting them up with that @ sign. So that's where I'll just sort of cut it off. So it looks like we have quite a few here. And there we go, right? So we're getting some, at least, network level indicators here, right? So, we can grab these. We can do like virus total lookups. Maybe we can do like, domain reputation, figure out where these domains are from, what they're hosting. So we have a ton of information to sort of go off of here so far. And it looks like we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, at least, different URLs here. Another weird string. Let me just grab this quick. Setting another random value. Is that used anywhere? And this is sort of the methodology I'm doing this by as we go line by line, is to sort of decode a line, see if it's a variable that's used anywhere else, and if not, kind of move on and get to the more juicy stuff, right? Here, like with the URLs, for example. Now we're getting into, so this is pretty much it, right? This is the end of the script here. Looks like we have another instance that I can just quickly grab the value for. Again, probably just to throw us off in some way, at least in this case. But I'll document it just to be safe. But this appears to be the rest of the script, right? So everything that we've sort of uncovered so far, right? So that directory location that we identified, the DLL name that it's saving a file as, and of course, all these URLs appears to all, I guess, converge in this for each loop here, right? And so what it's doing, it's setting sort of this variable for each of these, and I'm assuming that refers to the array, which it does, right? So it's basically saying for each URL in this list of URLs that we identified here, do this for each of them, right? And then what is it doing, right? So creating a new object, it looks like, system.net.webclient to download file, right? And then it's pasting in this, which was, so the URL. And then it's pasting in this, which was that path, right? So what it's trying to do is download a file from each of these URLs and then save it to this path under a69s.dll. And then what it appears to be doing, so it's going to try that for each of those. And then if it's able to get the item, right? So if it successfully downloads and that item or that location, that file has a length that appears to be greater or equal to 35698, then it's going to do some more stuff, right? So that's sort of the logic so far. is to sort of reach out to each of those URLs and try to download a file and then try to save it to that location under that .dll. And then if it's able to do that and it actually downloads something of meaning, right? So it has a file that's greater or equal to this length here. So it's actually, an indicator that it was able to successfully download maybe a stage 2 of the malware, or maybe, whatever kind of, command and control beacon, whatever it's trying to do, is if it can confirm that it did in fact download a file, then it looks like it's doing run DLL 32, right? So again, we're saving a malicious DLL here, assumingly, and then we can use, or attackers can use the run DLL 32 executable to run that file and execute it, right? And then it's pointing run DLL 32 over to that path, right? And then it's running control run DLL. Yeah, so I mean, that's it, right? And then if it finds that, it's going to break out of that loop, right? So if it is able to actually run that from one of these URLs, then it's going to, it's going to go ahead and do that, right? So, I mean, that's it, right? That's the whole script there, which is interesting. And so, I mean, I think that's it. I think if we hop back over to the questions now, we'll have everything that we need, right? Just with the caveat that this is where the main kind of thing is going on. The remainder up here is just sort of providing the context in what it's doing. So, I mean, hopefully that makes sense. Let's hop back over to these questions now. Yes, that was the first one I saw. So what security protocol is being used for the communication with a malicious domain? And from our output here, we found TLS 12, which, through our research referred to TLS 1.2. So I'm going to go with that. There we go. What directory does the obfuscated PowerShell create? Starting from home. Yeah, so again, we have that home variable, and then it was creating this weird DB blah, 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 and then this weird YF. And is it looking for the DLL name? No, just the subdirectory. So I think that's it. There we go. What file is being downloaded? The full name. There we go. So it's going to be a69s.dll. What is used to execute the downloaded file? So again, we saw that because, again, it's a DLL. Oftentimes it's going to be executed through run DLL, but we can confirm that within that sort of loop as well, right? So if it's able to download that file and confirm it, then it's going to call run DLL. And again, if we wanted to, I can just sort of visually, write this in my head as I see the different strings here. But again, if we wanted to, we could throw this into PowerShell and sort of decode it that way. But really, I can just sort of tell it's using run DLL 32 against that file. There we go. What is the domain name of the URI ending in 6F2GD? That's going to be this last one here. wm.mcdevelop.net is the domain name there. Or do they want just mcdevelop? Let's see. Nope, subdomain. There we go. Based on the analysis of the obfuscated code, what is the name of the malware? Okay, interesting. I didn't really see anything super indicative in the script itself, but we do have a number of indicators here, again, that we could use as sort of, hypotheses or different investigative questions, right? So we have these evidence sources here, these different indicators, and then we can, look up any of these URLs and see if they're associated with any kind of like malware family, right? Or we could go off of sort of that random name, but I assume, again, that's just kind of a random name that's being generated for the script. And so these seem to be a little bit more static here that we can use, right? So for example, can head over to virus total, maybe paste that in as a URL, wm.mcdevelop.net. Yeah, there we go. So a few indicators. I'm not seeing any kind of malware family. Maybe I just can search that in Google. Again, Google's our best friend here. We can see some URL house results. I'll open that up. Looks like we have a Medium article for this specific challenge, so I'll ignore those. But this URL house one, again, just performing a lookup on this domain to see if it's associated with anything. Oh yeah, there we go. So if we go under malware URLs, We can see sort of the date it was added to the database here. We can see the content that was downloaded, which is the same one that we've identified in the script. Appears to be related to Emotet. At least that is the main tag here, right? So I guess, yeah, I'll go with that. Did we find anything else? We have some Joe Sandbox. Yeah, so on triage here, we have Emotet as sort of the tag. Malware Bazaar most likely has some kind of similar tagging system there. So that's what I'll go with. And there we go. That wasn't too bad, right? We started with quite a mess, right? But we were able to open this up and really just go through line by line and figure out, what variables are being set that might be used later on. Right? And we have a bunch of different ways that we can do that kind of thing, right? Again, like I said, there's scripts or different tools out there that'll maybe make a lot of this easier and almost do it for you. But I kind of wanted to go through it, line by line and sort of in a manual way, and using tools here and there to help us out, right? So again, some very interesting techniques here, like using the different array placements to sort of build up a string, right? So that's a pretty interesting one, kind of fun to do that manually. Or again, just splitting words up. And then really anytime it's sort of trying to set a variable like this, we can use the script against itself and really help tell us what it's doing when it's executed, right? And so again, different techniques that we can use really to understand the script in more detail. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Let's see, let me hop back over and see what kind of questions we got. So we can wrap up with a little bit more of a Q&A, and then we can call it shortly. Great step through, learned a lot. Many thanks. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. That was that was kind of a fun one. I really liked the Blue Team Labs. I almost want to say boxes or labs, but they're, they just hand us the evidence and it's up to us to sort of go through it. I don't really like, some of the more Blue Team focused labs out there that like they make you sort of like remote into a specific, analyst machine, and then you're stuck using whatever tools they give you. I really like when we have the freedom to use whatever we want. And so, yeah, that was fun. All right, let me scroll back up with the chat and see quite a few questions here. I was trying to go through some as we did it, but I got carried away. Writing some Minecraft language. Yeah, man. Whatever that means. Yeah, that was a little tricky of a script there. It was very, very encoded. Google Foo seems to be a main skill in cyber. That is, in fact, the truth. I mean, really anything, any kind of troubleshooting, any kind of analysis, really anything. Being able to effectively search for what you're looking for and, Google or use whatever search engine you want. Being able to do that effectively is really its own skill in itself. And it pains me anytime, folks come with questions that are just so easily Googleable, or like, error messages or some kind of message that you can just literally paste into Google and figure out what you're looking for. Yeah, honestly, it's an entire skill in itself. It really separates, more experienced analysts from maybe more beginners. Running obfuscated code on the host is the play. Yeah, that's right. That was a little, in this case, I knew what it was doing, right? It was just setting a variable name. So I was happy to take a risk there and maybe own myself live, on live stream. But yeah, no, that's a completely valid technique, right? You maybe don't want to do it on your host. But again, if you have sort of a Windows box that you're using as sort of your analysis, or again, as Eddie was saying earlier, if you run PowerShell core on Linux, for example, do a similar kind of thing and really just run it. Use the script and sort of arm it against itself. It's a nice kind of way to look at it. Is there a similar tool like how Packer is for JavaScript, but for PowerShell? Yeah, like I was saying, there's a few scripts or different tools out there that you can do to sort of make this process a lot more automated. I figure if I did something like that, it would probably take like 5 minutes for the challenge, and so I did it manually. But again, if you just search for PowerShell Deobfuscator, yeah, you'll find a ton of stuff out there that can really kind of go through some of those different techniques that we looked at, like the string splitting and the sort of working with arrays and stuff, and all those random variable names that attackers like to do to make it harder to analyze. So I can kind of abstract a lot of that for us. What do you think about Kali Linux? Do you sometimes use? Yeah, I mean, I use it sometimes if I'm doing any kind of penetration testing engagement, or maybe if I'm trying to simulate an attack. It really doesn't matter what flavor you use. I mean, you can install any tool you want on any kind of Ubuntu system or whatever, right? I think Alex does a lot of his web penetration testing on Ubuntu, right? He has his own kind of setup with his own tools that he's happy with. And so really, I'll use Kali just for ease of use, right? It's very quick to just install it and have a bunch of tools that I want to use immediately available, right? If I'm trying to create some artifacts, for example, to sort of analyze or write detection rules for, it can be a quick way to set up an attacker machine. But I don't do a ton of penetration testing, so can't really speak to that side of things. But rip ChatGPT for CTS. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's always a pain to get it to do what you want, especially when you're on live stream. So, I mean, it tried its best there, and I'm sure if I prompted it a bit better, it could help us out. Late for viewing, will there be a recording for this? Yep. Yeah. So if you check on the TCM YouTube page after we wrap up here, you can just go back and watch any point you want. Where to find proof of concept for some CVEs? I mean, GitHub, right? ExploitDB, anywhere, right? GitHub is probably where you're going to find some of the latest stuff. You might have to go hunting a little bit here and there. And so again, learning how to search for what you're looking for could be useful there. But yeah, I mean, really, any kind of code repository or place to post that kind of thing. Any forensics, IR, or threat hunting specific courses coming up? Yeah, so the SOC 201 is pretty much that exact trilogy. It's going to be have a huge focus on threat hunting and incident response, and how we can use more advanced forensics to work in those fields as well, right? And so it's going to do it from sort of a zoomed out or a macroscopic view, and how we can sort of do incident response and how we can do threat hunting at scale against hundreds or thousands of machines, some of the methodologies around there. And then we're really going to deep dive into perhaps a few or maybe one or a couple machines that we might be interested in from maybe a threat hunting or incident response effort, and learn how we can use some more advanced forensics on how we can really dig into some of those machines and look at some more advanced attacks, things like anti-forensics as well. So that course is really going to cover, I think, what you're looking for here. So that'll be coming out soon. Is there some blue team project based you'd propose for academic purposes? I mean, nothing specific. I mean, there's a ton of different projects out there that you can work on. Again, just a matter of the resources you have and sort of the interest, right? There's a ton of stuff you can do. Like I always say, a very good project that you can work on is to just stand up a SIM, right? If it's Splunk or Elastic, anything really, or Waza. Or Security Onion, right? Just stand up some kind of monitoring kind of solution, and then just simulate attacks, right? And then see the telemetry, right? See what's coming in, see how you can detect those attacks, and work with sort of your different things like searching and aggregations, and how you can sort of hunt down and detect these kind of things, and then create detection rules about it, right? And so if you're able to do that and document it, I think that's a really good project. And again, you can simulate attacks. You don't have to be like super, elite pen tester to do that. You can use things like Atomic Red Team or Caldera, or these different kind of solutions out there to help you simulate those artifacts, that telemetry. And then you can write, some custom detection rules or maybe ingest rules to detect that kind of thing. Rerun the attacks and see sort of the alerts or the detections you're able to get. So that's like a pretty big one that I like to recommend just because it encompasses a number of different things. If you want to get more into like SOAR and working with, more security engineering and working with other solutions and kind of integrating things, again, a ton of resources out there. I always recommend my DFIR. He has some like walkthroughs on how you can do very similar projects like that. And he also has his own videos on like, project ideas as well. And so if you are hurting for some ideas, I would check out my DFIR on YouTube as well. The manual way goes into the investigative thought process, so I prefer that way. Yeah, for sure. More fun, anyways, to know how things work more manually, and then we can understand how we can use tools to make that process easier, right? But if we don't understand what it's doing under the hood, it's going to be hard to troubleshoot if things go wrong, right? Or what if these automated tools don't give us what we need, right? How do we go deeper? And so, yeah, there's always ways, or there's always methodologies that I prefer to understand things more manually first. What script language was that? It was so complex. Yeah, that was PowerShell. That was highly obfuscated and first encoded, and then highly obfuscated PowerShell. And so it took a few layers of unraveling to figure out what we were looking at there. Did you do the Microsoft SC200? No, I did. I mostly stick to the Azure stuff in Microsoft. I don't really do too much Microsoft training anymore, but I did. I guess the highest I went in Microsoft was the AZ500 for Azure Security Engineering. If anyone's going for that, by the way, there's a guy, what's his name? John Saville. He's like a super jacked guy. He always stands in front of a nice whiteboard and has these nice drawings. He's like the king of any kind of Azure training, all free on YouTube. And so that's what I used, again, for a lot of that Microsoft training that I've done. Does soon have a date? Unfortunately, no, just because I know the second I say a date, something's going to happen, and then I'm not going to live up to that date. And so the course is currently really like in the middle of development right now. It's coming together really well. I think it's going to be probably end up longer than SOC 101, and it just has a ton of more information. It really goes a step beyond or a giant leap beyond. And so I'm really excited for it. I just want to make sure that it is perfect, right? That it's done right and give the justice it deserves. You did the OSCP certification. Is it difficult to pass? I would say yeah, just because, I mean, from where I was when I took it, like I wasn't, I didn't have penetration testing experience. And so just, being sort of, I guess you could say like more entry level penetration tester, which I never worked in penetration testing before. It was kind of my first foray into that side of things. And so it was a little bit harder in that regard. But it is overall, it's a sort of entry level certification, right? And so on the penetration testing side, and so again, penetration testing, not an entry level field by any means. And cybersecurity itself, again, isn't really a super entry level field as well. And so there's a lot of prerequisites there. And so I guess the newer you are in the industry or in penetration testing in general, you'll find it harder. But it was a decent challenge, I would say. Yeah, my DFIR uploads projects that people can do all the time. Yeah, I would definitely recommend checking them out as well. Hey, Tyler in the chat. Not sure if you're still here. I've been slowly scrolling down after we wrapped up the challenge here, but welcome. Yeah, it was nice to see you start streaming again this past week. I tuned in for a few of them so far. I don't know how you are able to record a course live. Like, you should just see the way I do stuff. It's ridiculous. Like the fluidity that you have compared to me, like having to repeat the same phrases over and over until it sounds right in my head. Yeah, so big props. If you ever want to check out uh, extreme talent at work, check out any of Tyler Ramsey's recent streams, or I'm sure he's going to be streaming more this week too. Super, super awesome stuff. Do you still recommend AZ500? I think it just depends on your role and sort of what you kind of want to go down. In my case, with the role I was in at the time, again, I was doing more so security engineering at that point and kind of like architecting in a little bit kind of ways. And we were moving a lot of things to Azure at the time. And so it just kind of made sense from sort of a job opportunity perspective that it would allow me to sort of get more hands-on with that kind of engineering in the cloud. And so I was able to sort of expand my role in that way at that specific job. Have I used the skills since? Not really. I mean, every other company I've been with afterwards has just been AWS focused. And so, again, you still pick up a lot of similar methodologies and securing and hardening things in the cloud. But the way that these cloud platforms are, they just love to call their tools or their solutions different things. And so it can be confusing. But again, if you sort of work out of a Microsoft or an Azure-based shop, and if you have sort of an opportunity there to, if you think it would sort of open up doors for you, if you were to have more Azure security experience, I think it's a decent recommendation, right? It's specific vendor training, right? So that's sort of the caveat there. Just got done a client debrief. Nice, nice. And yeah, you've injected AI into yourself. Yeah, so for anyone that wants to tune in to Tyler Ramsey, he's going to be streaming every night until the course is done, which is cool. So he's working on literally live his AWS penetration testing course. And so if you are interested in that, check him out. All right, I think I got through a majority. I just kind of scrolled down the comment chain there. I know there's some that I missed, but I'll be over in the Discord after the stream if there's anything still pressing. But just before we wrap up, again, I'll just mention that we're sort of sunsetting or retiring those privilege escalation courses. And so you can get them on a pretty cheap lifetime deal now, the Windows one and the Linux one, or you can get them as a bundle, for under $100, which is nice for that lifetime access. Like I said before, anecdotally, those courses really helped me pass the OSCP. And so I found a lot of value out of them. Yeah, so I think the link should be going around in chat if you are interested. But with that, thank you so much, everyone. Really enjoyed the lab we did today. That was a lot of fun doing that manual deobfuscation. And so hopefully I'm going to start hunting around for some other labs that we can do because I think we're pretty much burnt out of the blue team labs, at least the free retired rooms, unless we start going through the easier ones. But I kind of want to go for harder ones now. And so I'll peek around some of the other platforms and see if I can find anything. I know there are a lot of hack the box Sherlocks that we can do, so definitely try to pick some of those up. But so see you guys next week. I think it'll be someone else streaming as we're sort of rotating out, but someone will be here next week to do some fun boxes and Q&As as well. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. That was fun, and have a great rest of your week.